According to the latest Africa Investment Index released by Quantum Global Independent Research Arm, Quantum Global Research Lab, Nigeria is the 19th most attractive economy for investment flowing into Africa. There are various opportunities for public-private collaboration, providing investors return on their investment. Nigeria has undergone several strategic initiatives aimed at accelerating industrial development in the past. What makes the Nigeria Industrial Revolution Plan, NIRP, different from the previous efforts? What targeted considerations are to be developed in Nigeria's industrialization roadmap? Let's find a strategic point of comprehension with all of this with my guest on the spot within the next half hour. My name is Blessing Abu, and I welcome you to this week's edition of our program, On the Spot. My guest holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Politics and International Studies from the University of Warwick, England, and a Master's degree in Development Studies from the University of Leeds, same England. And I have on the spot one who is a multidisciplinary professional with a strong background in SME development, microfinance development, human resource management, as well as strong institutional outreach and linkages. My guest has attended several local as well as international trainings in economic development, as well as other leadership courses, conferences, and seminars. This week, the Honourable Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment, Hajiya Aisha Abubakar, is on the spot. Welcome to the program, Hajiya Abubakar.
Thank you very much.
Then that's according to the survey done, the index I just read out earlier, that Nigeria is the 19th most attractive economy for investment flowing into Africa. Now, how cherry is this news for us as a nation?
Well, despite all the economic challenges that we've gone through in the last 2 years, I think that's very encouraging news. That would inspire more Nigerians to go into production, manufacturing, because they know that the world is looking on, and therefore there's potential. So if we can get our house in order, then we would see the kind of bloom that we want. So that's very encouraging news.
Okay. Now, there is a plan already. You said at least before the last 2 years, what kind of economic situation we found ourselves. Now, there is a plan already, which is the Nigerian Industrial Revolution Plan, designed at revitalizing the economy. What exactly is contained in this plan?
Okay, I have a copy of the plan here. Perhaps I can leave it behind. The plan is a detailed compendium of what Nigeria has comparative advantages in. We know that we're blessed in so many kinds of resources, both human and mineral, but we have to select the ones that are quick, that we can really develop quickly and see the gains. So this compendium has all of that. It also tells us where we can, how we can do it, and the best way to achieve the results, whether we're going to do partnerships, whether we're going to do it on our own, whether we're going to allow the private sector to do it. So, it also gives you a guide on who does what and how best to do it. Why it's also a very nice document is because it was an interministerial collection, which means there were a series of meetings, there were agreements cut across all the relevant stakeholders. It was taken to the private sector, they validated it, before we actually came out with this kind of
all-inclusive plan, cutting across the, okay,
yes.
So where are these comparative advantages we have in these relevant sectors I've listed?
Okay, if I take the sugar industry, for example, we realize that we have very fertile and a lot of potential investment in sugar. So we came out with the sugar policy. And now we have the Sugar Council, which monitors the implementation of the sugar policy. And also on top of that, there's a monitoring element to it, which also tells us how we're doing in the sugar policy. And the sugar policy has a master plan, which is a 10-year plan, and we're trying to see how we can implement it. Unfortunately, sugar is capital intensive, so we do not have, we have huge investments in that sector, but we don't have too many players in the sector. But then at least we are seeing progress. Progress is being done a little by a little, and then we hope to see more investment into that area. Again, another one is the Auto Council. We have the Nigerian Auto Design and Development Council of Nigeria. Again, it's an area where Nigeria felt we had comparative, I mean, at the time we had comparative advantage.
What about now?
Now it's still there, very much so. We were talking about doing auto parks. We have our auto industries that we've started, like Pan, like Steer. They're still there. They're not doing so well. So this is a time now to give them that kind of energy to say, yes, there was a reason why you were there, or encouraged to start up in the first place, and then things went, but now is the time to come back because there's a lot of advantage. And all over the world you can see auto industry. Nigeria population of over 180 million, and everybody wanting to drive a car. It's huge.
And so our imports have just been servicing the other parts of the world instead of developing us.
Developing
so let's take that for instance, because we know what the NIRP is trying to do now is to harness most of all these potentials wherever they are across the world, because I know we had to bring back Mr. Jelani Aliu to come oversee some of this area. So in what direction are we going to be using that to actually drive that particular industry?
Well, I think they're just trying to come up with another strategy for what the new DG wants to do. But I know that we're also looking at doing something for agriculture, something that can be economical for us. For example, in Indonesia, they have smaller cars, the same brands, the Nissans, but you don't have the same models that we have here, all the big Jeeps and so on. And if we want something, they also have a financing scheme for people who want to own cars. So these are some of the things that perhaps we should look at to make it, not everybody should have a car really, but at least have a robust car system so that the prices of cars will come down. We know that the cost of production in Nigeria is still very high. So it's very difficult for them to compete with the Tokumbo cars that are coming in.
Honourable Minister, I know the government, especially in the last 2 years, have been taking different turns to actually make the ease of doing business here very robust. Now, would you want to take on some of those aspects, some of the strategies that have been injected to actually take NIRP to its own next level? What are the medium-term exposure and what are the long-term that you are considering?
Well, you know that the whole concentration on the ease of doing business that led to the setup of the Presidential Council on the Ease of Doing Business is the World Bank's ranking of Nigeria as 169 out of 189.
Sure.
And now with the position we found ourselves in 2 years ago, you needed to look for drastic ways to make quick impact. So the first thing was to have a council at presidential level that would signal to the world that indeed Nigeria was doing something to encourage investment, both domestic and foreign, because it's not just for the foreigners to come in, and but it's also for our domestic investors to be able to do business. And one of the major issues was business licensing. So the issues with Corporate Affairs Commission was tackled. Now we're able to register a business in less than 48 hours. You get your certificate. Things like you have to have a local partner and no more necessary. NIPC is being restructured. The one-stop shop is being strengthened so that you don't have to go to so many different places. States are being engaged on a regular basis at the National Economic Council and even at individual levels to do with things like construction permits, land, community clashes, and all of this, so that they're all setting up their investment parastatals or agencies at state level.
But your assessment so far of all this from its implementation, what's your assessment so far?
I think it's doing good. I think it's doing good because, for example, if you take Kaduna State, they've done 2 investment summits, and Kaduna is encouraging a lot of investment. Kaduna is open for business, and Kaduna State, when you go, you get your land certificate in less than 48 hours. Progress is being made actually, and people are actually, farmlands are being available.
So apart from Kaduna, which other states?
I know Lagos State has also done remarkably well. Kano State is also doing very well and I know Ogun State is doing. So I know, across the board, there's quite a number of states are trying to engage. Next week we have the Niger State doing their own investment forum, and usually, they do the investment forums and then they take their communique very seriously. So all the issues that are identified, then they tend to work with them. All
right. Honourable Minister, there are enablers to some of all these projections that we're looking at, and I'm sure for critical minds of what industries have done for us in the time past. They are still on the watch out. What new direction will you be taking to actually, okay, there are concerns too from most business persons. Having those industrialization process take grounds. Now, where are those collaborative efforts from the ministry? Perhaps, of course, you're looking at private sector, public-private sector partnership. Where are those strengths for us in this area?
Well, I think now we have a fair level playing ground. The acting president recently inaugurated the Industrial and Advisory Competitive and Advisory Council, otherwise known as the Industrial Council, and it's an engagement of public-private sector stakeholders. The second meeting is coming up, I think, at the end of this month. And, you know, reform areas have been identified, things like power, access to finance, infrastructure, roads, and so on. And heads are coming together. Industrialization is usually taken on by the private sector. The government provides the enabling environment and the right policies. So heads are coming together at this level now to say, what is it? What are we bringing to the table? What can you do? What do you want us to do for you to do the things that you think you can do? And, you know, so we're reaching an agreement, and so we don't have, we avoid things like policy somersaults and so on. You know, and one good thing is, like, this Nigerian Industrial Revolution Plan wasn't actually approved by this administration. It was done by the last, but we found it a good document and something that would guide us. And again, it plays a critical role in the economic recovery and growth plan, because we think it's a good document. Why throw it out? You know, again, when you throw it out, that's when you have policy. So investors who have started something
start losing confidence.
Would start losing. So we're continuing with it. And this is some of the things that we're doing towards industrialization.
Okay. Honourable Minister, when we come back from this break, because we'll go on a break now to at least let you catch some breath, and we'll take a look at some of those other areas. Your part of your studies is on the outlook for SMEs and other means. Let's see how we can make that turnaround as engine growth for our economy. You're watching On the Spot on NTA News 24. Our conversation with the Honourable Minister of State, Industry, Trade and Investment, Aisha Abubakar, continues after this time out. Welcome back. If you just tuned in, the program is On the Spot, and I have my guest still seated. She's the Honourable Minister of State, Industry, Trade and Investment, Aisha Abubakar. Now, youth empowerment, SMEs are critical components of the economy, and in developing countries just like ours, we need to see what kind of drive we're going to give them to boost whatever it is we're going to be doing on the larger scale at industrialization level. Now, how does NIRP incorporate them into all of this?
The NIRP recognizes the role that SMEs play in our economy, and under the NIRP, there was a provision for the Nigeria Enterprise Development Program, NEDEP. And NEDEP is a tripartite relationship between the Bank of Industry, the Industrial Training Fund, and Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDAN. And the logic behind this is that there's a huge skill gap in some of the industries that we have, and there's a need to bridge that gap, so that ITF would provide you with training on the requisite skills that you have. SMEDAN, being the overall agency in charge of small and medium enterprises, would give you the entrepreneurship training, because whether you learn whatever skill that you learn is not necessarily a commercial entity. So you need to be able to commercialize that and do it and run it as a business. So that's the role that SMEDAN will give you in that relationship. And then you have the Bank of Industry, because they are sure that you have the quick skills and you've been trained on business management, then they feel comfortable now to give you some money to start. And this is supposed to run under the cooperatives. We call it the cooperatives because mostly with cooperatives. So we encourage form groups of 10. You might not necessarily all do the same thing, but you're a cooperative.
Clusters, like
yes, so that you can cross guarantee yourselves. That removes the issue of collateral. So if there are 10 of you in a group, you know, and 2 people are given funds, your other 8 will watch over you to ensure that the money that, number one, you borrowed was used for the intent that it was supposed to be, because whatever it is should have some economic value, economic impact. So used for the intent. And then secondly, that money is not diverted. And then there's the whole concept of using business development service providers, which will act as doctors to you.
Are they all under
the NIRP?
Okay.
All under the NIRP. So you have that shield, and it's still ongoing. And under the NIRP also, you have the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise National Council, which again, the acting president inaugurated early in the year. So you know there's a program for SMEs, and they should be able to seize there are no complications really. There are no complications.
Well, I know that in providing solutions to some of this focused area, there are barriers, no doubt. I'm sure some of them have gotten to your attention, as in at least as the parent ministry overseeing NIRP projects. Now, let's take a look at some of those barriers that have inhibited aspects of industrialization generally, and also in the new chart that you're trying to have for the country. What are those foreseen concerns that we should actually address?
Well, first and foremost, you need to have the right capacity to run a business, really. And you might not have the full knowledge, but you should have some knowledge. For example, now if you want to set up a hairdressing salon or a restaurant, at least you should have an idea of what goes on in the kitchen. You should not use sugar or salt. At least know a little bit, but then you can. So when you get a chef to actually do the cooking, you know what is expected. You know what the taste is going to be like. You know what the colors should look like, and then you know the management. So having a chef is just one aspect of it. I'm talking about preparations. Some some of the things that prepare you. So you know what a chef is supposed to do. That a chef does not necessarily do the washing up, or keeping the kitchen tidy, or keeping stock of what is in your stock room. Someone else needs to be able to manage that, so that you know. And then the front room, where the restaurant is actually located, the customers, the waiters, the table arrangement. Again, somebody with that kind of expertise. But you should have a managerial capacity to be able to handle all of that, to be able to plan ahead, to be able to have a vision and ensure that that vision is being kept and is being followed the way it is. And that's how businesses usually start. And then always start small. Try out a pilot case, and you build on it. Which is why a business plan is very important. You start small and you use your business plan. You're looking at it. Okay, this was supposed to guide me on this, but I need to change it now based on what I have seen or what I have experienced. But at least the basics are there.
But for those that have crossed these basics that you have just highlighted, what are their greatest concerns for us achieving that which NIRP is set to do for them?
Some people will talk about access to finance. If you're not in a group, you're an entity, for example, and you're just starting up, they talk about finance is a problem. Some people will ask about location. Trying to acquire a workspace is also a challenge, and rent is very high, and all these add to cost of production. And of course, the big one is the power and the water issues that we all know.
Generally.
But I think plans are on the way. We're trying to encourage clusters now. We're trying to encourage industrial centers, because it is easier to give them shared facilities. So it's easier to give water, it's easier to give electricity, it's easier to do the roads. There's more collaboration between the ministries now, so that you're not just doing things in silos anymore. You're doing things where you think you're going to get the most impact. So industrial centers are being targeted, farm areas where heavy commercial farming, are going on to do the rural routes, just so that we can create a little comfort to people who are actually going into businesses. All
right, Honourable Minister, now some of these lofty ideas, the plans contained in NIRP, is not just going to be stuck at the federal level. The role of the subnational governments is required here. What is the interface at this point?
The NIRP has been presented at the National Economic Council. The NIRP, as I said, is the Bible of the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. So there is, at our councils, even our council last year, there was a presentation. At our council this year, there's going to be a presentation. We engage the Honourable Commissioners of the respective states on various aspects that they want to pursue, like agriculture or agro-allied. So, you know, different states have different areas where they want or where they have concerns. Some states say they have moribund industries, particularly with processing of fruits and juices. What can we do for them, and so on. We're also drawing up policies as we go along. We've just done the tomato policy. We're also working on other ones like the leather, the steel, and so on. Just
so the stage we are is still the stage of drawing policies?
No, we're at the stage of implementing, because for you to be able to implement, you have a plan, but then you pick one and you work on it, or you pick 4 at a time and you work on it. And so I've mentioned a few that have already been worked on. We have the auto, the rice, the sugar. You know, we have the tomato now. We're working on some others. You know, so you do it gradually, and they all tend to just have lives on their own. But you need to just keep an eye to make sure that the entire plan, this is a plan, but the entire implementation of it is actually on course. So
this plan was, like you pointed out, there was established before the country plunged into recession, and I'm glad that at least we're finding a way around. Now, what other concerted efforts are being pushed in Syria, at least on a quick succession, to actually lighten up whatever the burden that this has brought on the people and industries generally?
Well, I think if I understand your question, what other things is, I think with the Nigeria Economic Recovery Growth Plan, we have indicated areas where we want to be self-sufficient, at least. So these are areas where I think Nigerians as a populace can have an understanding of where the government is going. We've taken agriculture as the major one, manufacturing followed, because we don't want a situation whereby we keep growing and exporting raw materials when the value is actually in the processing of it. So we're trying to encourage more processors to come up. Last week we just saw the Kebbi state do the biggest rice mill in Africa. So, you know, things like that is what we're looking for. We know what the Kebbi rice has done to the people and the environs in Kebbi. Ebonyi is another state that is following closely in that, Lagos state. So, I mean, you know, we're trying to just create the enabling environment. We're trying to make everybody understand that we all have roles to play, and if you come together, something can actually succeed.
Talking about what other role, what we have just on ground could play, there is one project I know is of great concern to so many Nigerians, the Ajakuta silver, and I'm sure there's something to be done containing this plan as well for that particular project. So it won't go the way several projects have gone.
Well, I know, you know, the Jakarta skill project itself is tangled in some, but it's been untangled. I think that's something for Nigerians to look forward to. And the steel policy is also coming on around it to also protect the new structure that would be in place. So I know very soon something would come out. All
right, Honourable Minister of State, we must go, but I know there is still a word for big-time industrialists, small-time startups, and also so many others that will be coming on board as part of your plan. Ours is to get Nigeria on that steady growth that we have designed it to be, and for us to still get up that index. Now, what exactly is that message going to be finally?
I think my final message to Nigerians is that they should maintain the hope. They shouldn't lose faith. Despite all the challenges, Nigeria is actually doing well. Despite when we compare ourselves, particularly with our other African countries, Nigeria is doing well. The environment, you know, we already have the political will. It's just for us to actually just put it to practice and use it best.
And for our other foreign direct investment that we're expecting?
Nigeria is open for business.
Yes, Nigeria is open for business, and I'm sure everyone is ready to actually embrace that. That's our program for this week. On the spot has been Honourable Minister of State, Industry, Trade and Investment, Aisha Abubakar, as my guest. Thank you for watching. We hope to see you on the next edition of the program. My name is Blessing Abu. Bye for now.